First, let me thank the organizers for inviting me. And just one line on Global Call to Action Against Poverty. It's probably the largest anti-poverty campaign. And it has around 60 to 80 active coalitions across the world looking at making MDGs accountable. I'm also part of the Beyond 2015 group, but Mwangi, my friend, is here. He'll probably introduce Beyond 2015 later. Let me start by thanking the keynote speaker. I thought it was fantastic in terms of connecting the multiple dimensions of development and justice. So that was fantastic, and in fact the notes that I have in many ways resonate with what you're saying. And just one particular point, I was delighted to hear the ethical dimension in international cooperation, which is not heard very often these days. So just coming back to your question, I just want to make 2 or 3 points which are maybe not very specifically responding to your question, but would touch your questions. One, that I think when we look back, it's good to look back and see what's worked, but what we also need to look back and see what's not worked. B, my worry is that the more conversations I have with groups which are working on particularly a post-2015 frame, we are doing a reasonably non-contextual looking ahead. So it is the last 10 years, we have seen the fuel crisis, the food crisis, the economic meltdown. This is the time when we saw the Arab Spring happening. But a lot of these conversations on post-2015 are not factoring in these tremendous changes which have really changed the world dramatically. I must also say that I think a good question to start with would be that from 90s to 2000, whatever changes we saw in terms of development, do we have the same kind of changes in the next 10 years? That's the 10 years of MDGs, or it's been a little better or worse? One thing, at least speaking from India, I can say is that inequality has grown tremendously. And one of the worries now is that you have most of the poor living in middle-income countries. India, China, and very often, at least in India, what we see, because we're talking in the context of development cooperation, almost all the bilaterals have moved out of India. And India still remains home for almost a quarter of the global poor. And when I talk of global poor in India, we're talking of people living with less than $1 a day.